Also, you know what? I'm gonna be a turkey and I'm gonna rename Marcy's Autopilot. What do we want to name it? What if it has a name? I won't, but I could. I could totally
Oscar.
Oscar?
Yeah.
Oscar.
You could call it Joe Citizen,
Go
and you're more than welcome to remove it. I apologize. I can't
No,
get
it's
the
okay.
settings right with that company, so please. It's here accidentally.
It's okay. I've been wondering about on Zoom all these apps that will take notes for you. I'm like, wow, are we going out of business?
Right.
Anyway, so those are our objectives. We're going to be reviewing and refining and getting as close to the end, if not all the way to the end of that vision chapter. We're going to get some updates from folks, and we're going to get an update as well from all of you and from Cynthia on kind of where we stand in the process. Okay, all that to say, we're going to do some relevant work group updates. Please let us know anything that is relevant to this group, things you've heard, people you've talked to, opportunities for community engagement, etc., regarding this effort with the community plan. Marcy, I'm going to go with you first, just so that you can be done talking and then continue concentrating on other things.
I don't think I have any updates. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for joining. We appreciate it. Linda.
Yeah, we had our grassroots housing meeting today, and I'm hearing now from two different sources something very, very exciting that is going to be happening, just a conversation among some Sedona residents. One came to me from Judy Poe at the library, and I know John Sather is going to be part of this group, but they're talking about this concept called placemaking. And are you all familiar with it? If you look it up, it's really cool, and it's very logical, and it's really about public places that are you have eyes on the ground by the people who use those spaces and people who live in that town. And so you kind of pool your resources together, and you decide what's going to be there, what's going to go there. And they want to actually take one piece of Sedona, the property between the library and the city hall, and sort of like describe what that could look like. And I told them, please hurry up, because that could be a general concept that really should go into the community plan. And then Steve Sedner talked about, he was talking to KSB just last night or this week, and he said, instead of keep Sedona beautiful, there's a sense that you want to keep Sedona the way it used to look. But he said, what if we make Sedona beautiful? And so he basically described something very, very similar, but about, listening to people and what they'd love to see, about planting trees and having this big master plan. So whatever gets redeveloped, they align with part of this plan, but it comes from the people itself. And then, of course, Shannon directed them to talk to the sustainability committee people at the city and public works, because they're already working on that. But I thought it was so exciting, and he's going to gather anybody, some people who are interested to start this. They're still talking about this concept of placemaking, where you just utilize your local talent. It could be an architect, it could be, it could be a contractor, it could be people who, are going to use it. So we talked about it in terms of, for example, and I'll be quick, I'm almost done. But, for example, that if we did this place, people are constantly saying, I don't want to see buildings along 89A because it's going to block my view, which is always amazing to me, why we need to have views in every little bit that we drive on in Sedona. But I said, then each place needs to have rooftops, at least one rooftop, and that could be a gathering place. It could be a little public park up there. It can be, a coffee shop where we can all enjoy the views and so it's that kind of thing where we can talk about what the concerns are and then how to address it. Anyway, I thought it was super exciting.
That's great. I can feel your excitement, Linda. That's wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah,
for
I don't feel anybody else's.
I'm excited. I love rooftop. I mean, just go upstairs.
Yeah,
Do it again.
why not?
Thanks, Linda. Mary.
We're getting down to the nitty gritty on our meeting schedule. And so the next one is at the Methodist Church. And I guess what I'm interested in is making sure that you've all looked at the schedule, wondering if you would be willing to come to one or another and tell us which one you might want to come to, because we're not sure how many people will be coming, and we really need help with the discussion groups, manning or womaning and note taking and that sort of stuff. And if we had a few more bodies, it would just feel so nice. So think about that, please.
Can we review, when we get to that part of the agenda, can we review all those specifics and get some hands?
Sure.
'Cause we're all about pressuring people
Right.
for commitments, Mary.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary. And I did put the flyer in the chat box. If anybody wants to download it and send it on to their networks, it has all the dates, all the locations, all the addresses that Linda and Mary and Carol will be hosting these amazing housing meetings. So please spread that far and wide to anyone that you think might be interested, and maybe a few who might not be interested, but could be if they saw the flyer. So just for an additional resource for that. All right, Ernie.
A couple things. I will be attending every one of the housing.
Hey,
So I've got it on my calendar, and that's fine.
boy.
The only other thing, I received a Coconino County new ordinance regarding short-term rentals today, and read the entire thing. And boy, I think they have done things that we have not done yet. And I think we might want to take a really close look at that, as far as some things to include in the community plan if we can't get them on the almost immediate agenda at city council. I don't know how the county could have done this kind of apparently almost by itself, but they indicate that they were in very close contact with attorneys, the League of Cities and Towns, as well as the state legislature. So anyhow, I think they have come up with quite a bit of new control options, if you will. So
There it is.
that's about all I have right now.
Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you, Ernie, for that. I just did a quick Google search. It's in the chat, the link to the ordinance for Coconino County. It looked like the Board of Supervisors passed it unanimously.
Yep.
And that's the extent of the information I know. So thanks for bringing that up, Ernie.
Can I ask a question, Carrie? How do I see that link when we're done with this meeting? I don't want to read it while we're at the meeting.
Right.
Well,
no,
I'm gonna put it in the notes as one part, Linda,
Great.
but we can email it out or just open
That'd
it
be great.
now and leave
Thank
it open
you.
on your browser.
Yeah, we can, any other documents that are shared, like that flyer for the housing, we'll make sure that everyone, especially if there's anybody who isn't here tonight, we can just send it out to the work group, the flyer and the ordinance link right after this meeting. So everybody will have it kind of consolidated in one place.
Good.
Okay. And still
Nothing
in
to
Texas.
report. I'm still in Texas till mid-September, but so I can't help with the events. I'm sorry about that, but I did send the notice out to Sedona Residents Unite email list.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ann. Monica.
Hi. No updates. Housing continues to be a problem as far as staffing businesses. I'm sure Mike can attest to that. And I probably have to leave at 4. So
Okay. Thank you. Mike.
Not a lot to add, although I was encouraged that I saw the governor making Sedona Airbnb issues a primary thing going forward in the fall. So I thought that was an interesting comment she made. I don't know if you guys saw the headline, but it was kind of hidden around. But somebody has talked to the governor, and she now realizes that maybe they need to give control back to local communities. So that was encouraging.
Yes.
It's great.
Is there an article about that, Mike?
What's that?
Is there
Yeah, there was an article in the Arizona Daily, the one in Phoenix, whichever one that is, not Daily
Republic?
Sun, but
Republic.
Arizona Republic, and it was a headline article about a week ago. It was that and another topic related to housing, but clearly someone in the legislature or in her office is recognizing that Sedona is unique and has been hosed, for lack of a better word, by the legislature. So.
We'll look that
I
up.
believe it's been posted also on Nextdoor several times, and I just saw it today on the Nextdoor. I had opened it and read it before the last time it was posted, but I think if nobody else has it, I could pull that up again and send it.
Yeah, I've got the link. I can send it, no problem.
Oh, okay.
Pop it in the chat box and I'll put it in the notes.
Sure. One interesting thing I found though is in the local community, a property manager was like, I had no idea 1 in 6 available homes were Airbnb, and I was like, huh. Interesting take. Okay, so
Where you been?
Maybe they just thought it was like 1 in 8.
yeah, right. Low impact. Yeah.
Right. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Mike.
Yep.
All right, Rick, updates from you, and then we'll move to Cynthia.
I don't really have any updates. Would just kind of like to see in our notes somewhere that we'd like to discourage short-term rentals and discourage day trippers.
Discourage day trippers?
Yep. Just drive up, litter, drive home.
That's a great description, Rick.
I am not going to be offended that I am usually a day tripper to Sedona and I do not litter.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
I do.
As planners, Cynthia can massage that to mean different kinds of things.
Well,
Are you suggesting I need work on my political correctness?
No, I'm suggesting you're so direct and we appreciate it.
Yes.
I've never been told that before.
I'm sure you haven't, or sarcastic.
that too. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
But
Oh, thanks for putting that link in there, Mike. All right. We're gonna round this out with some kind of process quick updates from the city perspective. Cynthia.
Okay. It's been a while, I guess, since we talked about process. I know that you guys had some questions when I was not at the last meeting. So I'll just give a really brief update. We are working hard over here. Mike Raber is still working part-time for us. So he's been busy this summer working on, let's see, I'd say we got about 3 chapters that we've gone through. And we are working with staff on some of the other chapters. So no worries. There's been a lot of productivity on our side because I think there were concerns about where we were at with things. So that's moving along. We are looking at increasing SDR's involvement a little bit more so that we can stay on our timeline. So our goal is still March. It's going to be tight. we can't really guarantee March because some of the like wild cards are going to be when it goes to P&Z Commission, when it goes to council, how many meetings will that be? So that could delay things a little bit past March. But our plan is over the next couple of months, definitely September, October are going to be extremely busy. And that's where SDR will come in and help out, facilitating things like staff meetings or stakeholder meetings. And really, it depends on the chapter as to how we go about that, because different topics require different participation, for example. So that's just a quick overview, and I'll probably update our timeline and so that we can have something in writing that you can see. Any other, did I miss anything, Carrie?
Nope, that sounds about right. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, any questions from anybody before we dive right in, either to another member of the work group for SDR or for the city?
Well, I have a question because I probably spent an hour or more today, even trying to see the vision chapter, and I couldn't get into the work group. I went through 2 iterations of changing my password, attempting to get in, and all I could see is the vision chapter that had all the comments from back in June, and no changes that I could see. So that was a little disappointing. Because I had read the agenda and we're supposed to talk about the tourism chapter, and I couldn't get there to even see it, or to see, I've got the old book, but not the current one. So yeah, I couldn't get to this.
Right.
They just posted. So that was one issue.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
There is one other quick thing, and today I took a look again at the citizen survey that we did in 2022. It's been done in 2020, actually, my council started this. But here's one thing to just state once, in general. I think we've been kind of talking around it, but I think this is the key, and that is that as far as I can remember, even my own council, the citizens had probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest, rating of anything regarding the overall direction that Sedona is taking. Now, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I don't think that's a true or accurate statement, but it is a perception. Only 28% of our citizens in Sedona think that the city is heading on the right track. So, and this is much lower than the general norm. And then we have things like overall confidence, 30 in city government. This is all on the government page. Is 34, generally acting in the best interest of the community at 32. I made a comment and then it disappeared. I can't find my comment again, but it was that we really need to focus, I think, on the idea of basically marketing ourselves better. And mentioned it over and over again about mailing this to every household, but we do have to do, I think, a better job of public relations, because this does not represent reality from my perspective. And when there's that much of a mismatch between reality and perception, and I think the community plan is a place to start.
Thank you, Ernie. And your comment about sending this out, that has been relayed. We talked about
I saw that. Yeah, that it was.
so,
Yeah.
so
thank you.
those kinds of comments. And so I just want to give thank you, first of all, for sharing those. I think the best way in which we can hopefully generate some increased confidence in the city is to make sure that we are incorporating in this plan update everything we've heard from the work group perspective, from community perspectives, all the feedback that Linda and Mary and Carol are getting at housing meetings, you know, the input that we got from the community forums, from our online surveys, from our listening and learning sessions. That's the job here, right? Is to make sure that everything we're hearing is, as best we can, as best as you all can, and as best the city can, incorporated into this plan. So as we move forward, there will be additional opportunities for you all to help us figure out how to best engage the community once they see a first draft, so that then they can give feedback on, did we get it right? If not, how to change it, or wow, nice work. So that's continuing to figure out how we can best utilize your ideas, Ernie, to really engage the community meaningfully.
Right.
So thank you for that.
So
Yes, and
I just wanted to add that, Ernie, we also had kind of a forest for the trees moment with the tourism group. So I think, you know, one of the things we realized is that it was becoming really difficult to actually even see what we were trying to convey, because there were so many comments. So first of all, amazing job. We have not lost that version. We're on, like, I think it's called like well, there it is. Vision revision version 5 SDR. Like, they're 5, we're gonna have 5.1.6.2, but rest assured those are in there. And we just wanted to be really mindful of trying to clean this up, and so we can really see what we're looking at here. And we also want to describe to you today, and again with every process that we do, how your work was incorporated, and or the decision to not incorporate it. I think that's just as important, and where this verbiage is coming from in terms of community input, you know, city knowledge that we don't have because we don't work for the city. So we're doing our best, but those comments that you have are so important, and I couldn't agree with you more after working with this work group. You know, there's a bad taste in some people's mouths, but I don't think it's the whole city. And so how do we shift that boat?
Right.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I'll add that hearing all of these comments that we hear, one of the ideas that I had to get at that would be to include some of the history of the city in the plan. You know, going back to, and Ernie's certainly familiar with it, but Keep Sedona Beautiful, why, and the city incorporated, you know, maybe some photos, historic photos where they show all the billboards, and that's part of why we incorporated. We didn't want a bunch of billboards. Why we have a relatively strict land development code. So I think a lot of people don't realize all of that, that the city is kind of quietly implementing in the background. And yes, not perfectly, but a lot of, there's a lot that the city has that people are not aware of. And if you've lived here 20, 30 years, you know that, but for newer people, like and I've even talked to a few people with Keep Sedona Beautiful who are unaware of some of that history. And so I think if we can include some in the plan as kind of an educational thing, that might help.
You know, one of the ideas that came up today, it was such a cute term, Steve Segner used it, and it was called having these little pop-up committees. And they might meet once, twice, 3 times or so, but they're pretty much done after that, and then make recommendations. And I just think that in some ways, you know, I know we're late in the process for that, but to me, it's never too late. So for example, if we wanted to have, or they're gonna do it, I mean, but we could also take advantage of it, of somebody who has ideas about tourism that we may not know, we have a little pop-up committee that just meets a couple times and they share their ideas and, you know, how to resolve some of this stuff, and we consider all of that can go in. I mean, I just think too that you know, I want to go back to something that John Sather had said in the very beginning of this group, that we need to be very positive about it. And that if we don't believe in it, then they'll never believe in it. But that they still have an opportunity to have quite a bit of say if they, and we need to be clear about that communication and what it's going to look like. So if it will be, you know, a couple more public meetings to go over the first draft. As soon as we know, we need to let them know. Are we going to send out a link to the rough draft? You know, that kind of thing. So I think the more we can do that, the more it will help.
Great. Okay, these are great ideas for engaging the community. Thank you all for sharing them, and we hope that we can keep them coming. If you are thinking of other ideas, please feel free to put them in the chat throughout the meeting. Okay, so in efforts to really try to make sure that we are being transparent in the comments that we've received, this vision chapter, version 5, is our attempt at incorporating many, if not all of the comments that were populated in previous versions. So that being said, we had a smaller contingent of the work group in July settle on this second vision statement. Then we had some folks meet in the tourism subgroup and do an updated version using that one, adding some more to be this first version. They are saying a lot, if not all of the same thing, with a variety of different words. So if anybody has extremely strong thoughts on the vision statement, we can put number 1 on one of these and number 2 on the other, and everybody can put in the chat which one they like better, and we can go that way. Or we can have, you know, a time-bound 5-minute discussion on this vision statement.
Right, and we did, based on the last time we met, we did add, you choose to keep it or not, we did add that time-bound part, which we discussed, Anne and Ernie and Tony were on that. Makes it more specific to this particular plan, because this is that's the timeline of the plan. We hope beyond that as well, but certainly by then.
I'm fine with either one. It's a first draft, so I'm fine with either one.
I'm fine too.
And the first one, though, the top one, I think I would have just removed. I'm sorry, I just did what you said not to do. But you have 5 minutes economically.
We do.
I just think I think economic would be part of a vibrant community, but it would be, you know, taking it out makes it broader.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think I kind of like number 1.
Well, and some of those terms are yeah. What do others think? Vibrant has lots of meanings, and if you say economically vibrant, it kind of only calls it for the economics. But if we say vibrant, it includes economics and other things.
Right.
I like number 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got a whole chapter on economics, so we won't miss it.
Right.
The other thing you added, Carrie, is people in place. That part changed just a little bit. We had good reasoning for that. Do you recall?
Yeah, so we because Sedona is this place and is similarly to economically vibrant community, the place really encapsulates a lot of things: landscapes, businesses,
People,
people, how they move around, etc. So we went,
Placemaking,
yeah, we went broader with that term.
I like, yeah, I like it.
that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Any
Yeah,
others?
it's fine.
So-
I
A
like
couple
it.
of folks in the chat saying they like number one. Go ahead, Anne. I saw you put your hand up.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll go with one.
I can live with either one. In number one, though, it says and prioritizes the protection. Well, that it could be prioritized last. So I think a different word would be better. I think in the original one of 2013, I like the wording there.
Yeah.
What did it say? It said in places high priority on or something like that. So, and whatever the vision is, I hope the rest of this document gives clarity to Ernie's point. What does it mean we'll be diverse? What does it mean we'll be livable? What does it mean we'll be vibrant?
Yep.
You
That's the
know,
idea.
so when the person reads this one document, they understand where we're trying to go.
Yeah. Again, vision statement. This is ideally the most broad statement of the plan, and we hone in
Mhm.
from there.
Yeah.
And it's a bold statement. It's a visionary statement. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Okay.
I'll go with one.
All right.
Make sure you tell them about, I'll get a step away for 1 second, but make sure you highlight the low profile buildings in the
Oh, yeah.
small toe field.
Will do.
again.
Will
Just-
do.
Just relax.
Yep. Okay. So I put this in here and we do not have to use it, but this was my thought on making sure that we all think back to that really big event we did at the SPAC, and we asked people what they love about Sedona. And so this is to help us remember why these kind of core values are coming up, right? Community, beauty, nature, right? The small town feel. Also, because unfortunately, there was a typo. There's low profile buildings,
Yeah.
which is just kind of funny.
Which means it should come out.
And then over here, we have the small toe feeling. It's just when you're just towing your small boat, is that small toe feeling.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, this is just to ground us all. We don't have to include it in the plan. It is, Cynthia also mentioned, because this has a link to it, we could put it back out on social media. We could include it on the city website and see if we get more things that people say. Remember, this one was pick your top 3 words that you love most about Sedona. And then these words could change around and get bigger or smaller if we all chose that was a good idea. Ernie, go ahead. I see your hand up.
I like it, and I not only like it, but I would encourage that this be included in the mailing that we're going to do to the community, because this is exactly kind of what I was talking about. We need to be promoting, and this is it, and what it's saying is, doggone it, the community, the city government understands. They got it. This is us. Okay. We provided that input, and they acknowledge it. So I love it from that perspective.
Okay. And we do have a link for this that, oh, yep. And I can
I
only
think
see
it's-
4 of you, so I'm trying to scroll to see who's.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I think it's great if you can fix the typos, but
Yeah.
did we have one that said, and what word do you have for Sedona that you hope will describe it in 10 years?
Yeah, thanks, Anne.
We
I
did
agree.
remember,
I
Linda.
think I have that too. I'll pull up the Mentimeter real quick if I can
think
find it.
that-
Although it may
that
not
the
be on
one-
my.
Yeah, so I think the one about the vision, what's your future vision of Sedona? I think you helped with that one, Linda. That was a Post-it note one, with a big
Mhm.
poster of an agave, and everybody was writing their future vision. And we have that in written up form from that meeting in our series of notes and our meeting and our kind of workshop summary. so we can look back on that as well. So this one is like, what do you love? And the pairing one was, what do you envision for a future Sedona?
I think you have it. I think it was on your Mentee account, Carrie. We'll have to
Yeah,
come
that's
back to that.
It's not a Mentimeter. That one wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't. It's in the
visual.
notes. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I can probably.
But you could take it from a Post-it note to this type of a
You
visual.
totally could.
100%. Yep.
We can manually do that.
Yep.
So, and maybe everybody can respond to this, but the only one that concerns me on this whole thing is low profile buildings. Because we can't get to our future and what people want to see in terms of housing if we have, I mean, I understand that they're saying they like that. But we're also asking them to be open about rethinking that. So do you think this is going to work against us on that? But yeah, I do hear what you're saying, that this is one of these things that unite us. And I think that's important. I think it's, and I like that it's visual, kind of addresses what Tony has been bringing up, make things more visual.
I don't
Linda,
think-
I think if you do the, what do we need in 10 years, the biggest word might be housing.
Right.
So you think, yeah, it'll be a good balance.
Right,
That's
so it
all I
shows
wanna
the
hear.
tension. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's
Then
it.
I can live with that. Other than that, I like it a lot.
Yeah,
Cynthia?
and I don't think the low profile buildings, since the majority of them are residences, I don't think we have any real plans to increase the height of residential buildings beyond the allowable 27 feet that we currently have, because that would make them 3-story buildings. And, but there are places that I agree that we would have other than just a 2-story building. So
All right.
Okay. All right, so we'll make sure that to incorporate that above. This gets to the core values. So there was some concern that we only have 2 core values. How is that possible in the vision? And so what we did here is we tried to bold those words that fall into livable and vibrant community, to really highlight that the livable, vibrant community is this value, but all these things fit within that. So we don't need to have a value for sustainable tourism and a value for arts and a value for housing, that they all fall into this livable and vibrant community. So that was the effort that we kind of put in to basically highlight that all of these particular things fall into that one core value.
Did we add any in this one, or was it so what we did too is we looked through the whole plan and said, in these 2 buckets, what else are we missing to make sure it's a complete package? And then we bolded those terms to ensure that it's not just 2 things. Those are the buckets to which 10 other things fall under.
Right. So we tried to figure out, especially as it pertains to the old or the previous community plan, that we're talking about the arts and housing, the economy, the sense of community there. So, and again, these can and will likely be wordsmithed. We just wanted to highlight to you all that these things were included in that first core value, which is a livable and vibrant community.
Well, let's look at the rest
Okay.
of the core values.
Yeah. So then the second one is environmental protection. And so this one, again, is this preservation of the natural landscape and wildlife, recreation, balanced recreational tourism, which could go kind of both. And so we added, and to your point, Anne, you had mentioned that it's a lot for Sedona residents to oversee and protect. So I changed that, and this is my verbiage. So please, if you've got darts to throw, you can throw them at me. I put to demonstrate and support the responsible visitation and management of one of the most beautiful places on earth. So the Sedona residents have a great responsibility, and that's to support as well as demonstrate individually this and as a community, these values. Go ahead, Cynthia. I didn't clear this with you, so feel free to just
laundry right here live.
So you got responsible visitation and management, but also development. And that's where I think the oversee and protect is not that far off, because our land development code has a lot of stuff in there about protecting the most beautiful place on earth.
Is that, see how Carrie's highlighted
Yeah.
that below?
So
Cynthia,
I
you wanna-
also wanted to include in this environmental protection, city parks, open space, and then I added this forward-looking land use, and this is where we can add ideally, or, like, again, wordsmithing, we can put it in a multitude of places. Is essential in the planning of a future Sedona and the protection of ...
And that's
So-
something where we can go in and add maybe a sentence or something.
Exactly. So just to give you guys an idea, so these are the things that fall within that environmental protection core value. And again, there's a lot of different ways to say the same kind of things, and I'm going to leave that to the people who are really in charge. But we just wanted to make sure that all of those concepts were apparent. So this, parks and open space. Thank you, Andy. I knew exactly what you're going to do there.
It's 10 years of working together.
I know. And this forward-thinking land use, to really highlight that is imperative to continued land protection.
And these just highlight those chapters that will fall, right? We're starting really broad with the guidance, highlighting at the broadest sense, this is what we think about these concepts. Okay, now each chapter is going to have this concept where we break it down and get more specific all the way down to policies that could lead to adopted policies.
I have a question. In the first paragraph, who is we?
The community.
Community.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay,
is
so
privileged.
we would be the residents and the city leadership and everybody, right?
All those that make up the community. Yep.
Right.
But the community is privileged.
No, that's all right. I'm just
I
because
like we
I
are.
worry about the second paragraph says Sedona residents have a great responsibility. What about Sedona council, Sedona staff? So, it just seems weird that I just thought the first paragraph did a great job. I didn't know that we really needed this section.
So you'll be happy to know, Anne, that we went deep down the rabbit hole of definitions. And we replaced resident, not that we hate the word, but we went to several sources. And it's interesting when you look at the word resident versus community, because a community, think of it as something that interacts with one another, which is consistent with the community plan. And residents are individuals of the community. And so in most cases, it was our understanding and really recommendation, which was then backed up by Cynthia, because this is what a community plan is for, is really to include the word community, which is just much
Okay,
broader.
I like it.
term.
That looks much
Which
better.
includes-
All right.
Yeah,
Monica,
the
go ahead.
other
Monica,
thing-
a second. Monica's been patient with her hand up. And then you, Linda, promise.
This is sort of a formatting thing. Like for the rest of it, when I was reading over it, I felt that it was a little bit redundant and that it was not filled out because it's redundant in this way, where the community plan, it says like what it looks like, how we will achieve this. It's like, why are we saying it twice? It's making it really lengthy, and we're having to come up with more bullet points than are necessary to just convey. Like here, we're bolding words. It's like TLDR, just like make bullet points. Sorry, that's my
We
editor's
about-
hat. I can't take off.
Well, we actually had it right before this call. I was like, I wonder if these would be better in bulleted statements. The intention here is before we had bold, it read as if there was only 2 core values. But when we really read through it, it was like, well, maybe there's only 2, but it has all these parts that will continue to have discussions. But besides Monica, do others support this idea of just having bulleted statements instead of parenthetical, and they're just more succinct about each of those pieces? Cynthia put her thumb. Either's fine.
I just want it readable. That's my goal.
Right.
Yeah,
And
then
I want it shorter than shorter, as long as we make our points, because I want people to read it. For sure.
Yep.
That's my feeling. And my only other comment was, we talk about recreational practices from visitors, but also ourselves,
Yes.
you know, that we also need to be vigilant.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think there's,
about oh, go ahead, Ernie.
Your internet's also a little bit choppy.
I was going to say that I think that there's definitely a place for bullet points, but I also think there's a place for prose. And in the vision part of the plan, it doesn't bother me, frankly, to be a little more prose and a little more flowery to get the impression that we're more than just money and throwing, dollars at things and putting things in bullet points and everything is a cut and dried kind of a thing. So, but when we get down to what we're actually going to do, and those action plans, that's I think where you really want to see the bullets and the conciseness and bang, this is how it's going to happen. And so just a comment of mine.
Yeah. I think if there was a time to have a little more words, it might be the vision chapter. We had a work session with Cynthia last week where we're trying to figure out the ways to be most succinct within the chapters, right? So that when people flip to a chapter, they can see what the goals are, what the topics are, what the policies are, what the actions are, a little bit more that direction. Okay, I'm an effort of keeping us moving. So this is basically like a visual representation of how the core values really influence what is the next section, which are these guiding principles. You can love it, you can hate it. It was a placeholder just as a visual to show how the core values, like we're moving out, right? Vision, core values. Now we're moving into more specifics. So the following guiding principles are intended to guide policies and actions in decision-making. Those three that have been agreed upon by this group, and hopefully those who weren't at the meeting where everybody agreed upon these can get behind them. There's three of them: honor and protect our environment and heritage, support regional economic diversity, local businesses, and responsible tourism, and strengthen community livability and connections.
Just a really quick question. Is heritage including Native American heritage or just the Sedona history heritage?
Yes.
All of the above.
Okay, good.
Should be.
Yeah. All right. So we move right into the first guiding principle, which we got through last time for the most part. We did some kind of condensing of this, to your point, Monica. When we talk about these kind of what it means, we had the what it means and how it will happen. And we really recognize that the how it will happen is really policy language, and those should go in the chapter and they don't need to be in the vision chapter. So again, trying to like pare down some things. And this kind of what Sedona will look and feel like, this is exactly that. When you use your eyes in Sedona, what will it look like? Oak Creek will be a lush riparian area. Thankfully, Cynthia was very blunt with me and was like, no, Carrie, this is what it looks like. When you open your eyes and you look around, what does it look like? So that helped me, because I'm not a planner, to really be able to really kind of pare these down a little bit. So we have the environment into 3. Oak Creek will be a lush riparian area. New homes, businesses, parks, and streets will be landscaped with native plants and will blend into the natural landscape. And natural ecosystems will be represented in the national forest and designated open space lands.
What does it mean they'll be represented?
Yeah, that's weird.
They have a union? What? I don't know.
Happy to change.
Right. I also think, so keep in mind, I'm already, so ex-wildlife biologist here. I'm already looking at this and going, oh my God, if I was with Game and Fish or the Forest Service, and this is what partner meetings and community feedback is for, right? In my mind, this is not robust enough yet. This doesn't include abundant wildlife. This doesn't include, we don't know. So I think this is the placeholder to which I would suggest, and there's already a few comments here, this is where the partners are going to come in, right? Forest Service, what we want to have. Now, not inextricably linking, but some stronger language there potentially.
Yeah.
So we're only talking about environment and, okay, only this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
okay.
our first guiding principle. Honor and protect our
Okay.
environment and heritage.
Okay. All
Is there
right.
anything about heritage in there?
Down here.
Is that it? Just one?
That's what we had. I didn't receive
okay.
additional ones, so I'm happy to add.
Right. No, I can add some stuff for.
And I'm taking notes on that.
The museum. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the one for historic preservation. Let me just go back up because I'm trying to make this as big as I can so you guys can see it. So we have these statements of what you will see. And then we have these sub statements, which are like, what does it mean? Protection of the environment will be a high priority in all decision making. Natural areas included in the National Forest Service public land, riparian habitat, and other drainages and steep slopes will be protected. So it's this what you will see and what will help you continue to see it, that there's that they're a high priority in planning, that they're protected, that there's a minimization of impacts, that so this is kind of like getting a little bit, like again, honing in a little bit, but without that kind of direct policy language.
I think it could be cleaned up a little because it seems like some of the what you see and the what you means should be flipped.
Okay. Great.
You know, I guess one of the concerns I have when I look at around now at our environment about, and I don't know if it goes in here, but as long as all of this is within our control, we can do this. But as soon as the state allows like those OHVs or whatever those vehicles are referred to, that's going to affect our impact on our natural environment. I don't know if we need to include that here. I'm just going to bring it up. You know, you can figure out how to work it in because more and more we're having state overreach on pretty much everything.
Great. Thank you, Linda, for that. I know Andy is taking notes in a separate document kind of behind the scenes here. Okay. Mike, go ahead. Thank you for putting your hand up.
All right, two things. One is the groundwater hydrogeologist in me screaming. The lush riparian area, a lot of people don't make the connection legally as well as physically between that and groundwater. And nowhere are we talking about groundwater as an environmental concern or protection. I want to address it when we get to the environmental sections, but I think it needs to be said here somehow, some way, because people don't make that connection oftentimes. And we definitely need to be prioritizing that because there are things we can do to control our use and reuse that we do have control over. So this is stuff we need to be addressing.
Good point.
And then the other one is reduce dependency on fuel dependent transportation. Can we put, I'm assuming we're trying to get at fossil fuel because everything has fuel. So just depends on what you want to define the energy as. Okay, geek done. But, yeah.
And why to limit it to transportation? You know, because we may want to have it on our homes too with more solar.
Energy supply. I don't know what words we want to use, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Period. Yeah.
Maybe instead of a lush riparian, we just want a healthy. Lush is a loaded word. It's for, you know, fiction writers.
Well, again, we were trying hard to figure out this, like what people will see, because what some people see as a whole bunch of thriving invasive plants you know, may not be healthy either. So, you know, we're trying to kind of thread that needle. So,
Got you.
really
No,
green,
no, you've moved it along. No, you have. You've moved it
really
along.
green and awesome. Thank you, Andy. We will make sure
Uh-huh.
that so again, this is kind of that, that writer's, you know, dilemma of like what words to use, what words mean something to some people and other things to other people. So we're trying to get at those the best we can.
Fine, fine.
Yeah, but noted, thank you. All right, so then this environmental protection, what it means. Again, to your
Would
point.
this be, quick question,
Yep, go ahead.
so question, with this section, so one thing I think that would be good for folks to be thinking about too is, hold on, I'm in a different doc, but I want to look at your pieces. When we look back at the old plan, one of the things we've decided is that the sidebars are not consistent, right? Like sometimes it's a narrative of something and other times it's policies. And so we are thinking about like, if there's gonna be a sidebar, what's the consistency in that? And what are you really trying to convey? So I'm wondering about this environmental protection, like what are these? I mean, I know we're trying to get more specific, but if we're not quite to policies,
Right.
are they necessary? Or could they be absorbed into the previous thing we're working on? Cynthia, what's your thinking there?
Yeah, I think that's where we'll need to go through and clean things up so that we have consistency. Not too much duplication, because I'm hearing, you know, a couple of you saying that this needs to be short, succinct, to the point. And some of this, if it's in the chapters, then maybe we need to simplify.
Right. Maybe it's one thing. I mean, I don't know what that thing is, but these are, I'm not quite sure what the difference is between the statements above and this chunk. When I saw this, I was like, well, if these are the things we really want to pop out, what are they? And then put them in a box if that's really what we want people to look at. But like Monica was saying, I think we need to, like, a general comment on this page is, what exactly are we trying to convey? Do we need sections to do it or not? I gotta get my cord. Darn it, I'll be right over.
Yeah, it's almost, and I was thinking about that as well. It's almost like, here are these, you know, what do we want Sedona to look and feel like here? And then is it like, you know, a sub bullet underneath it? And that's some of these things, you know, like, yeah, getting more specific from this, like, what do we want to see? And, you know, and I don't know what the next thing is, like what it means, how do we do it, like what that general, but like we could highlight how the structure is laid out, and then we could just have a page that's like, what Sedona will look and feel like, and how do we make it look like that? Or I don't know what the next thing is, but I'm trying to figure out, we originally wanted a table because that was, that allowed people to kind of see one and translate it to the next one. But I think that the table isn't necessarily working anymore. And so we're trying to figure out how to simplify this. How do we see it? And then this more specifics of how can we ensure that we see it? Yeah, Linda, go ahead.
Maybe in that, you said we're gonna have a chapter on each of these, so maybe the longer, the broader table is, you know, I don't know, maybe we repeat what it means, which is our goal, and then the next box and as part of the table is as action needed, so that it's very clear. Some things will need to have a policy, we'll have to, you know, develop a plan within, you know, within 18 months, if it's a high priority, you know, where, you know, and then who, maybe another box there is who would be a part of that. Well, again, those would be like the city and the community, in most of the cases. And maybe the last box is by when. I mean, to me, it's sort of like, if this is our plan, that's what everybody wants to see. If that's what I hear you saying, I mean, maybe this box doesn't have anything else to it, but the development, and we expand it in the chapter. I don't know, that's how I see it. I like things that are really clean like that, and charts tend to, I mean, if they're well laid out and it's not too much. I mean, I don't think this is bad. I think it's pretty clean. Because like you said, you're going from the very general statements and you're getting a little bit more specific as we filter down. And as we filter down, then we get into, in fact, that's something we probably need to just see. I think it would be helpful to see in writing as we start with, we all know now that the vision statement is basically our grand vision for the next 10 years. Our mission statement is our general statement on how we're going to get there, whatever it is, or by using these core values. And then we just know what they all are. So then as we're critiquing these, we know what we've agreed that this is how we're filtering it down to be more specific. I think it'll go a lot faster.
Okay.
But this is helpful. Don't get me wrong. This, I mean,
Yeah,
this is, I think
I think maybe, and I'm getting to you, Monica, I think for the rest of these two guiding principles, maybe we'll just focus on the what do we want to see? And then,
Yeah,
and then
right.
we can like then take those tables and really kind of figure out what's the best place for them. Does it belong in the chapter? Does it belong as like some sub bullets in the vision? But for
Yeah.
right now, let's just focus on how will Sedona look and feel for each one of the guiding principles. Go ahead, Monica.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And I think, I guess with when it comes to the layout, you have to consider who is the target audience here, and then you aim it for them. Some people will love to read an intro paragraph and then see a table. Some people will read a paragraph and these bullet points, they'll skim over the table and go on to the next. It's like if you're making a website, you have to say, you know, click here, like 1,000 different places on the page as a call to action to get someone to do something. My main point was people these days have a really short attention span, and they're not going to like, not everyone is going to read through a ton of stuff. So let's get to the meat of what we're trying to say up top. You can expand down below, but don't make it so that you have to, you know, don't be married to a format where you have to say what it looks like, all these specific descriptors. If we don't really know, like that's in 5 years, who knows if somebody's going to come up with a policy that will be like, yes, thank you for that environmental guideline or whatever. I just don't think we need to like pigeonhole ourselves into needing to say the same thing over and over again in multiple places.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as opposed to like the click here, we can always have the call out box that's like to see policies regarding the environment, go to page.
Or a hyperlink that takes you immediately there.
Right, or for the digital version. Yep, the hyperlink, exactly. Okay, guiding principle number 2, support regional economic diversity, local businesses, responsible tourism. I hear you, Ernie, go ahead.
No, it was Ann.
Oh, Ann.
I had
Couldn't
one
even
quick,
hand.
Oh,
one
I'm
last
sorry, I
quick
didn't see your
comment.
hands. I'm having a hard time tracking hands.
we don't mention the wetlands under environment. Isn't that something? I mean, I've heard birders from all over the world come to our sewer treatment plant because of the birds that land at the wetlands.
Yeah,
I think that that's important, Anne, but probably in the chapter on environment where we can call out specific areas, but
Well, I mean,
absolutely.
I'm just, if you go up just for 1 second, where we say, and we'll worry about, no, go down to what it means. Where we say we'll worry about other drainages and steep slopes, that's pretty vague and problematic. I mean, are you going to worry about the drain in my neighborhood? So
Yeah.
I take those out and maybe say, you know, stick to the higher examples like you have otherwise. So, all right, moving on.
All right. So number 2.
Cross your fingers.
Regional economic diversity, local businesses, and responsible tourism.
We worked on this for a long time, but we're ready. We're ready to just take whatever you think.
Exactly. So what Sedona will look and feel like in 2023. We have these 4. We tried to incorporate all the comments and content into the most succinct version that we could.
Again, with a few places where we're going to change residents probably back to community members. Carrie, you want to change that? We also had a conversation, and I'm going to do it. Sorry, Carrie and Cynthia, but I think it's important to sort of have a philosophical discussion on this discussion of businesses versus local businesses. And when we call them businesses, because people we know and love work in those businesses versus promoting local businesses. And when do we choose to call it a business? I'm looking at Marcy and Mike and others too. I mean, I think there are places where policy, if there's incentives for local businesses, it should be highlighted, but we also care about businesses because our community works there. Do we care? When do we call it one thing versus another?
No, I think this is a good, you guys did a pretty good job on this. I mean, I'm not really saying anything screaming at me or anything, and I would say the overwhelming majority of businesses in town are locally owned, if not in town, very close communities. I mean, you know, Marriott aside and a few others, most of them have a really, really heavy local presence. So I think you can be interchangeable.
Okay, what do others think? Marcy or Monica, you agree with that? I mean, there aren't any, you guys are still pretty minimal on huge box stores, so that's good.
You know, I guess when I think of businesses, I'm forgetting about, you know, Safeway Plaza and Bosch's Plaza, you know, the big stores, but everything else in there is pretty local.
Okay, so keep local in front of business when we
Yeah,
can?
I think so. I think you
Yeah, have a good
Local
feel.
could be meaning geographically too.
Right, it doesn't necessarily mean
Only,
locally
yeah.
owned, yeah.
Right.
right.
That's what I saw. It's local is in Sedona versus the Verde Valley.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Hey, Rick, there's your one-day trippers. Most tourists come to San-
I need to, oh. Can
Go
I
ahead.
speak?
Yeah, go ahead,
On
Brenda.
that third bullet, I'm not getting, I just wanted to offer a rewording. Community members enjoy a high quality of life, experience the beauty of Sedona and benefits brought by tourism. I'm almost, what were you thinking of in that one on the benefits brought by tourism?
The restaurants, the
100 restaurants and not,
And that's our local businesses prosper, you know, with the support. Okay. But I'm thinking also the community members enjoy a high quality of life through essential services, which is the next bullet down. And as Monica had said at one point, it's not just about restaurant after restaurant, but sometimes locals need more local businesses that will provide more of what they need.
Is this where I plug the recreation center again?
Yeah, I like that recreation center, Mike. I'm not gonna argue against that, but that is a good point. I mean, that's come up many times. It could be the arts and it could be, you know, I think we put a lot of emphasis on the arts. I think that recreation center would just kill it.
Carrie, will you go back up just so I can remind myself of the three things where regional economy versus local business and responsible tourism? Where do we have this family atmosphere kind of thing? Where does that fit? Is it Marcy's got
I think that's in community, the livable
holding off.
community and connections, the next one. Marcy, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
yeah, and the community members, there's nothing about people who earn a living here. And it's under the economic diversity, you know, community, we enjoy a high quality of life, experience the beauty and the benefits, which I read as the restaurant thing, but I would like in 10 years if there were more gainful employment for people in professions and things here, so that there were more high paying jobs that we can, you know, pay the people that live here. I think this is where that would go.
I mean, I know this is I'm opening a giant can of worms here, but it's what Ernie was saying in the beginning about the community and, you know, what this plan does and everything else is the people who live here have to see a benefit, and it can't just be restaurants. And I know we're getting at that, and this is really not the paragraph to do it in, but yeah, whether that's a recreational center, whether that's, you know, a community private partnership with high-speed internet to draw in, you know, technically capable people, medical, whatever. We need to not only do we need to underscore the connection, but we need to actually helped create it in this document. So
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
it's their taxes that support the surface of our roads, the parking lots,
that's good. That's a good lesson.
virtually every part of infrastructure is helped paid for by over half, it's
Yeah.
it's way over half, about 70% of it comes from tourism. So without them, we have no benefits, frankly. The 9,000 people of us, 9,700, aren't going to support anywhere near what Sedona is now. It's
Yeah, and
not
all the art and
just-
culture events, they
Yeah.
wouldn't be here without the tourism.
Right.
So
Yeah.
And so I guess, I mean, to get at what, Marcy and Mike are trying to get at, I mean, is this appropriate? Do people feel like adding something about opportunities for new and emerging professions, or more?
Yeah.
Maybe
And
maybe not
I-
provides, but supports.
Okay.
Yes, supports.
I put down supports emerging businesses, just emerging businesses in the future. I don't know if it's the business itself or the industry, because, for example, we're going to be having self-driving cars in the next 10 years. We're probably going to be hearing more. I'd love to see more incubation, businesses start up in Sedona that are smaller. And there could be also some things that we just are not aware are coming because technology is emerging so quickly. So I think that emerging businesses, fields perhaps, or something along that line, you can wordsmith it later, but that kind of thing, because we know it's got to work with everything else in Sedona, like our environment, our limited space. We know all the confines, but to think about it more positively, I would love to see that.
The only thing I would do, Carrie, too, because this is just me being extremely particular, is the order is regional economic diversity, local businesses, and responsible tourism. So I would switch the bullets to reflect that order.
Mhm.
And I would request that we have business and employment opportunities also, because not everyone
That's
is.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
we had it in the last community plan, attract high wage employment opportunities and professional based businesses to diversify the city's economic base and generate positive secondary benefits for the community.
That.
Okay. There you go.
Copy paste.
And how did we do?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we're just rewriting it, so.
Still working on it.
All right, so regarding this guiding principle and what Sedona will look and feel like in 2033, not 2023, everybody feeling okay with these 5 key points here?
Well, I just want to make sure economic diversity doesn't take us down the rabbit hole it did, from the previous plan. We're not talking about growing hemp at the Dells that was actually in the economic plan. The key word I heard was high wage employment opportunities. So.
That's good. That's good, Anne.
So be careful with the word diversity.
Okay.
From the standpoint of, we're not bringing in a small industry, we're not
How
gonna
about
get
economic?
big box stores, things like that.
How about economic policies? And just take out diversity entirely, but like economic what supports emerging businesses. And
That's good. I'm not sure below that why we have a sidebar to explain what a tourist is.
This is just, it doesn't have to live here, but
Last
Okay.
tourism type.
when we met, we went down the rabbit hole, just like residents and community, between tourists and visitors. And so we wanted to clarify, it doesn't need to live there, but if it needs to live somewhere, to highlight it, that's what those words mean.
Right. That like as a member of the community, you could also be a visitor to a place that you don't go often, right? As far as like
Right.
parking at a trailhead and recreating in a place that isn't out your back door, then you're a visitor, right? And so, and the thing is, people will see you as a visitor if they don't know who you are, correct? So,
Right.
so all tourists essentially our visitors. And, you know,
And all visitors are not recreational.
Right, that was, yeah, we should have taken that out. This was within the context of trying to make decisions about, I should have given more background on this. We borrowed this because there's been some discussion at the tourism group about whether or not tourism and visitor management, like what's the difference between tourism and visitor management? It's not a rabbit hole we're gonna go down right now, but stay tuned.
Okay.
That's another
Okay.
discussion we need to have. Like, where does it live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia has some strong and really good thoughts about that we need to make sure everybody understands and the community would understand, but we're not there yet.
all right. I'm inclined to move us on to the last one because it is
Mm-hmm.
the longest one.
I'm gonna put a note that just says pull this out.
Sure. So this isn't intended to be how it will be set up. I just wanted to highlight that there was like within this paragraph, something that addressed sense of community, improved mobility, and housing for all. So it's not intended to be separated like that. It's probably going to be one long paragraph there that talks about this guiding principle, but just for everybody's like being able to see it real quickly. That's why those are highlighted as they are. The housing for all isn't finished as a guiding principle wording yet because we didn't we didn't want to use verbatim the one from the last plan, but the one from the last plan was pretty good, so we're massaging that as well, but really getting at this all ages and income levels.
We're not going to achieve housing for all. It's a misnomer. But we can achieve, we can't place a high priority on housing diversity with greater opportunities for all.
Right. So then when we get at what this looks like and what this feels like in 2033, we separated them again so that you all could see these kind of key. So these ones were moved. They were originally, for some reason, in the tourism and local economy. So I moved them to the sense of community because arts, local culture, to me, feels like it fits a little bit better within the sense of community portion.
Gathering space.
And we will get this cleaned up version out to you all again. I know it's hard to try and look at all of this right now and provide comments, but we really were trying to help you guys understand kind of how we refined the structure. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this moving this because the thriving arts community at one point was extremely economic in this town.
Right.
A lot of artists do still live here, and so it's a bridge topic. I don't know which one's better. Obviously, I have an art gallery here, so I know where I sit, but yeah, it kind of fits both. There's definitely a strong art community that is not economically based, but there is one that is quite economic based as well. So,
right. So with these two, I mean, a thriving arts community, could that be better worded so that it fits into one better than the other? You know, like, I don't want to say industry by any means, but
well,
like,
it's almost the second one, local cultural celebrate through art events, that stays here in sense of community. And then the first one goes into economics, ensure that Sedona has a thriving arts community, you know, viable livelihood for those artists, you know, support if you want to put that in there, or just not have that line in there because you already have a diverse economy, so you've already kind of covered it.
Okay.
But the second one, this local culture, yeah, that fits in sense of community for sure.
Okay. All right. Others thoughts on this first section of 6 key points here for sense of community?
Well, yeah, I'll just throw in that I personally tend to like it in a sense of community. It's one of the reasons I had 3 reasons to come here. The beauty the fact that we had the arts community so well represented, and then the people. I never visited a place that had more welcoming and I just tell you a quick story, but I went to some kind of a men's shop. I was going to buy a shirt, and I ended up talking to the proprietor who lived here and invited me to play golf with him the next day. I mean, it was, you know, where do you find that kind of thing? So it was the people, the arts, the beauty, clean air, you know. So I like that then in a sense of community. It was part of a strong decision process for me. And I think for others.
I think it would be good if we can get back to that again, but I don't think that that's necessarily been the case for newcomers. Like, I mean, I've been here for 7 years, and there are certain people that definitely welcomed me with open arms, but there were a lot of people who, you know, give people a hard time when they get here.
Really?
Yeah. Sedona's
You
gonna
have to survive. You have to
May have
survive and
changed.
thrive for 2 years to be accepted. But
that's what you're told when you. I was told that so many times. You're not. No one's going to pay attention to you till you've been here you've hit the 2-year mark. Because
Welcome,
people go
welcome. No one's going to pay attention to you.
or I mean, you're not. You know, I mean, like no one's going to take you seriously or try to engage in a relationship with you until you've been here for 2 years, because you have to prove yourself. And so I'm not in so many words, you know. Yeah. And I'm not the only. I know I'm the only person that had that welcome. And you know, some people were the opposite. I mean, you could just look at social media and see what people say to people who are asking questions about moving here. It's horrible.
Okay. That's a sad story.
Be
Sorry,
nicer. Be nicer. That sense of
Be nicer. Be nice. We'll put the word nice.
Welcoming would be, you know.
Welcoming.
Well, I think
it's almost oh, go ahead.
just this right here is the first one. We will be friendly, welcoming, and neighborly community, and we'll collaborate with and support each other. That's the first
Love
one
it.
under this. So how that those two, like this whole sense of community section connects with those, what it will be like.
But Carrie,
Yeah.
how does the city make that happen?
Right.
Well,
I mean, that's us. We will promote, you know, respect for, you know, one another, you know, that kind of thing. Sure. I mean, they can try and do that, and they can do that by the way they interact with everybody. And I think they do. But to say we will be, that's something that's on all of us.
Yeah, it is.
Makes me want to ask the question, which we're not there yet, but and I can't recall because I don't know the old plan front to back, but what are the current community policies, Cynthia? Like, what are the policies associated with the community chapter?
Creating community gathering places.
Recreational buildings. Mike, got you.
Yeah, I may have mentioned this earlier. That would be a great tie-in for
and
It's all of a sudden like a game
who,
every time Mike says something about it.
everybody who works there is required to be welcoming.
We have the statement Sedona will retain its small town character.
Yeah.
That could be a different image in many people's heads. Do we want to keep that line, or do we want to add something to it to bring more clarity as to what it means?
I think the word retain is what's bothering me, Anne. It will promote its small town character, feels better to me, because again, you know, that's a tough one to hold it accountable. We want to be able to hold the city, you know, and look at and accountable for these things and ourselves, but the city can only do so much.
But I mean, some people would say small town character means small buildings.
Exactly.
Means rustic buildings. I mean, so
That's a carryover from earlier plans, and there
Yes.
has been a lot of discussion about how everybody has a different definition of small town.
Right.
Right.
And that's, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to get us trapped into curating a museum piece. So it's like, you know, what are we trying to do? Yeah.
Right, like, is it essential for 2033 to be in this plan update, to have the small town character key point in here?
I mean, I don't think that every person on here could describe the small town as the same
Same
thing.
Well, I
say
think,
take
I
it off
think
and
Marcy
yeah.
just undid that whole small town character, because if you're not welcoming, you're not a small town character. That's like one of the first things.
I think it'd be better if we can list out what it is that we mean by that.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
things like-
saying what it's gonna look like, what you guys are
Right.
doing.
We're
Right.
welcoming. and
Yeah.
We have places for people to meet each other.
Say,
Well,
It used
we
to
have it
be
above
that
there.
it used to be that small town character was that phrase was placed 17 times in I think the community plan that I was familiar with. And frankly, how we got Highway 179, not a 4-lane super highway at 50-mile-an-hour speeds to get people shopping quicker in downtown Sedona, was to convince ADOT that we believed in small town character, and a 4-lane superhighway with no median and no sidewalks and nothing was totally out of character with Sedona. So I frankly like being able to utilize that phrase, even though it can't be absolutely defined. And I agree that it's something a little bit different to everybody. Yeah, you can't use it in every instance, but I do think that most people within 9,700 people is really still a small town. And according to our land use planning, we will never have over 15,000. And that is still if every lot was built on. And that's still a small town from my perspective. And so I don't think we want to put big town
I don't think anybody's
small town, yeah, attitude.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's
there's
a fair
recognition
point. Yeah.
that this
I
needs to
hadn't-
be
go ahead.
described better. Maybe the description can be,
Call it out
that there's
more. Yeah.
people-oriented public gathering spaces that offer X, Y, and Z. So there's a recognition that those characteristics need to be better described.
Right. Yeah,
Let's move on
I'm okay with that.
to improved mobility.
I love the
Which
whole
makes
list. I
me
really like the
feel-
last one.
Okay, go ahead. What was that? I'm sorry.
I said, I love the whole list. I'm really happy to see the last one.
This one?
Yeah.
Me too.
Mhm.
The first one I think is real. We're setting ourselves up for failure. Can we say traffic will be reasonable?
This free flowing?
Yeah.
Free flowing, it's never gonna be.
traffic will move.
Again, it's
Maybe.
Reasonably well.
Also aspirational.
Right.
Yes, that's
This needs to be 2033. What do you see? We see
Tolerable?
traffic that is moving.
Reasonably well.
But,
Or traffic that.
that
It's a
doesn't feel very aspirational.
There we go. Simplify it. So Ernie, we had a long conversation today about the parking, your comments on parking. And so
Okay.
we revised it to this and tied, and Cynthia said there's such a huge, conversation in the community about whether more parking is good or not. And so we tied it to transit services specifically, thinking that statement nobody would probably disagree with, right? But we didn't call out more parking per se.
Did you happen to see today's
I
Red
hope
Rec
not.
News and the parking study that was just
Yep.
introduced at council, showing that we really are in only the 68% on average, and we go up to 88% fill, but we currently have enough parking, and it is the parking, it's where it is, really. I mean, if you put parking downtown, you're going to get the same cars that we have now on the streets getting to the downtown to parking. And what's who's going to use transit? I mean, it's like these two things are almost mutually exclusive. You don't encourage transit and bike and everything else with a lot of parking, or very convenient parking.
Yeah, just above it says there will be fewer.
Less convenient, actually.
It says there'll be fewer cars on the road. So this one, there will be transit services with convenient access throughout the city. I wouldn't talk about parking. I'm with Ernie.
There's a huge movement. John Thompson is bringing it to the council's attention and has sent me an article on parking, that there have been entire cities that are doing away with a minimum number of parking spaces, because that is the trend of the future. Ernie, you're absolutely right. If you want people to use these alternative modes of transportation, then we don't need, we just don't. In fact, we really, and that can be in the details, that we need to reduce our parking requirements.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the traffic chapter. Yep.
Parking lots are heat sinks, everything else. So.
Okay.
Hey, Linda, you had a recommendation for the change for Housing for All that was really good. Can we capture that right now? It was up at the top and it said change, but what would you call that when we go back up?
It was housing diversity and and it was like create more housing diversity.
Okay, can we put that up, Carrie, at the top?
Yeah.
The yellow things are.
Or housing, yeah.
I'm sorry, up here, housing for
right
all?
there. Yeah, change that. Create housing diversity. Can we do that? Okay, thank you.
And somewhere we want to make sure that we have a strong commitment to not just the diversity, which tends to be in size and price, but the number of housing, that we substantially, we can use a word like that, increase our housing opportunities. Maybe we could just look at this when we have time. I feel like we're running.
Is there going to be a specific number or percentage put in this document?
Not in this chapter.
No, but I think, Anne, one of the things we can do in the community plan is we call for a specific housing goals and plan on how we're going to achieve it. We have it in our housing plan, which is now about 4 years old, and they're excellent on how to achieve 1,200 units, but it was never adopted officially by council. And that is something we need to do, because it will say we're going to achieve this many units by this year. And a lot of good cities are doing that. Vail has a goal of, they're going to buy deed restrictions. They're going to take 1,000 homes out of vacation rentals and rent them back to locals by the year 2027. And they give reports, they're a year ahead. They're going to achieve it a year ahead of schedule. That's the kind of thing, but we don't have to put that in this,
Right.
in this, right? Yeah, okay, we
So
say
these
this
are-
is the
these are-
action.
Yeah, these are the, what do we want to
Good.
see, right? What do you guys
Yeah.
want to see? You guys want to see that there's an increase of housing options of all types, sizes, and cost. And that there's
Simple-
Significant increase. I think we need, that word is very important. Because we need 1,600 units in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we
but
have-
Linda, could I just ask a question about how
Mm-hmm.
we achieve that? Because I'm, you know, we
We
our
won't.
our land use plan, are you talking about making major revisions to the land use plan and taking some single single residences and combining several of them into a multifamily situation so we get more units
Well,
on?
Ernie, when you come to our housing talk, you're gonna hear it all.
Okay. Well, no, I
Seriously, well, we're talking about the cultural park at about 400 to 500 units out there. Main Street
Yeah, right.
redevelopment and commercial spaces, and then infill in neighborhoods, but not creating apartments. That we would never propose that. But certainly that, putting in a duplex or a triplex in some areas where it makes sense, and only after we get a cap on short-term rentals
Okay.
and
Okay.
going up.
All right.
So I
Okay.
think this is a pretty good segue to lead into those housing discussions, but I want to make sure that these two that are here are well supported for those, what we want to see, what you all want to see in 2033. Recognizing there can be more additions, but we want to make sure that we have time to do some updates from Linda and Mary, as well as from the tourism subgroup.
The other thing I would add, Carrie, is which this is editing later, but we are shifting tenses constantly between the first and second. So we'll have to catch that. I don't know which one we're supposed to be on, but we're shifting. Lost track.
Check.
I want to
Check your tenses.
I just wanted to compliment you that this made it easy for us to give you some feedback today, and that was
Right.
really helpful.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm glad that it was helpful.
More of this.
We know that there's lots of comments, and we want to make sure that you guys see that your comments are in the document. It's just, we want to make sure that we're trying to help streamline it too. So thank you for that. Like we said, we'll get this back out to you so you guys can add more comments and we can then further integrate. But before that, Mary and Linda, you guys want to take like 3 minutes and talk about the housing meetings, your plans, a call for help to your fellow work group members to come help be note takers or help facilitate? Go ahead.
I think the most important thing is for me, Mary said that the key things in the beginning, we could probably use some help and generally support, at the meetings. We need to see young people there. I can't express this strongly enough that if we don't see young families, we're going to be in trouble. If we don't see workers who do not live in Sedona but support our community, if they don't come, we're going to be in trouble. And we also need people who own businesses to be there. So that is the most important thing to me, is to have a good representation from those groups. We're really good on seeing the retired population there, and that's good because we want everyone there, but we also want a balance. I'm going to forward this to somebody at the school district, and she's going to try to send it out. And that's why we have different times. We even have a Saturday meeting at the library, so for people who work during the week. So please spread the word. It's extremely important we get a good turnout and we hear from everyone.
Right, and I would just add that the way the SDR folks have really helped us, and coordinating with Cynthia and the city as well. The city is limited in terms of the supports that they can provide in terms of staffing for those meetings. So again, the plea for help, but just sort of you all were at the April 19th meeting. This is just a condensed version of that. It's a PowerPoint thing. It goes pretty quickly, but mostly the emphasis for now has been on neighbor to neighbor. This is people coming together. There's really a powerful dynamic when people see other people there. We'll have a greeting table with getting people, putting name tags on people, getting their emails, etc. The discussions will be facilitated, but we also need note takers at those discussion tables. As mentioned already, we don't know how many people are going to show up, so a little bit of flexibility with a general understanding of the structure of the meetings. They're all going to be pretty much the same, but it's more about just emphasizing that this is for the community plan. If we don't hear from you, how can the city reflect your values and your needs? So pretty much that. But and the city is going to be providing us with a frequently asked questions thing, and anyway, so just useful information so they have a takeaway. Encourage people to communicate if they have further questions that didn't get addressed, that sort of thing. It's just sort of a community energizing effort.
Yeah. Also, before I
Thanks for all
forget,
your work.
I talked to Shannon and Jeannie, and they said that they are also going to help out. So we might be alternating, but they can help take notes also.
Okay, great, thank you.
Do we have, I forget, I think I know the answer to this, but did Keegan, is there anything that's out on social media besides the flyer? Like, has anybody talked about it?
Yeah, so Keegan has stuff out there, and then I put it on our city calendar, which has an e-notify. So that went out to a bunch of people, and then she's gonna do that for each of the meetings, like 2 days in advance. And that's a pretty big email list. Plus we need to, we should do that today, send it out to our bigger email list.
Yeah.
So Cynthia, is
Carrie,
it gonna go in the Red Rock News?
Yeah, so I talked to a reporter with Red Rock News yesterday. I didn't ask him what day it would be in the paper, but I suspect Friday.
Okay, great, thank you.
And just to everyone else's info, we went over it yesterday, but we did reach out to the Sedona Lodging Council, feeling like they would be provide good information on how much lack of housing is impacting their businesses. We only got, I think it was 6 responses out of 75 people contacted, but as I thought, surveys aren't always the most exciting things to be asked to reply to, since we're asked to reply on everything we buy at any given moment. But anyway, so just to appreciate that it is important for you all to reach out and see who you can get there. And I really appreciate what Linda's saying. And Marcy, I think you and I had kind of talked around that. And so hopefully you can help us with that.
Did you ask the Chamber of Commerce to send it to their members?
Well, they did, Anne. They sent it
Good,
out.
okay.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Like we had a meeting with Linda and Mary, like they said, there's it's a pretty detailed lined out version. There'll be sheets, there'll be templates for taking notes. So if anybody can come and help, it should be pretty streamlined. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Likewise, before I get to the tourism, I just want to follow up. The housing presentation was given at St. John Vianney in Spanish. Can't even remember. It's last month. It was July. That's right. It feels like it was months ago. Roxana and the Northern Arizona Interfaith Council leaders were there to talk about their concerns, the potential solutions, and really express those to the city. Specific to housing, we are following up with Roxana about having a Spanish speaking meeting about other community plan topics, especially as they relate to important issues and concerns that members of the Spanish speaking community have brought up multiple times. So we have a pretty, succinct list of things that they would like to talk about. We're that now just trying to coordinate on when that would be, where it would be, how to get the invitations out, etc. So we are continuing to work with Roxana on that.
Which has been such a joy, by the way.
Yes, she has been pleasant, very pleasant to work with. She's great. All right. Tourism subgroup. Lisa unfortunately is not here. She is at a public meeting in Payson tonight. So that's why she is not here to report back. But I know that Andy was in those discussions last week, as was Ernie and Anne. So if you guys want to give an update on kind of where you are with the tourism chapter outline and your work there.
Well, we left it, we had added a lot of comments and we were looking at comments over comments over comments. And so we just asked for Lisa to go and do a cleanup for us so we could kind of see again what we had. So that's where we left it.
Okay.
We have started that, and we want to clean up in there and corporation again, saving another version. So Lisa will be back tomorrow, and I think we'll just, I think at this point we've got a real active group there that we just need to keep working through this. So we'll reach back out. Also, Tony's on that group. She wasn't available to be here today. So just more to stay tuned in on that. For those of you that aren't on the tourism group, we're tackling this as an entirely new chapter. So, it's a big outline. We're trying to figure out what needs to be included. Where does tourism and visitor management start? We're looking along. So stay tuned. As soon as we have a draft for all of you to see, we'll get that to you as soon as possible. But we're really just making sure we have a solid outline to move forward with.
And it is tourism and the economy. So we want to reflect both.
Yeah, combined. Yeah, thanks, Anne, for that. And Cynthia, do you kind of talk about just briefly, we've rightly so, we've spent a ton of time on tourism and housing. These were the topics that we did this for a reason, right? If we look back on many of the discussions we had with the working group as well, the communities were big ticket items that we've been spending a lot of time on. But I want to make sure that you all know that the city hasn't forgotten about the other things. And so, Cynthia, do you just kind of want to just briefly talk about how the other things are being handled? We want to make sure that the work group stays in touch on that you are part of that. But the reality is that as we move into more extensive writing phase, we need to be really efficient with engaging you, right? Engage you at a time where there's a lot to comment on, capture those comments, revise, and move forward within context of continuing community input. I think it feels like we're kind of at a bit of a shifting place. And maybe Cynthia, you could kind of explain how some of the you mentioned Mike Graber had done a few of the chapters already. Can you kind of talk about that just a little bit? Like how it's all going to come together.
All right, we've got what, 6 minutes or so. So
yeah,
there's 9 chapters. Chapter 1 is intro. We've already gone through that. We're trying to streamline that, and I think it will be much better, actually. Vision chapter, you guys are working on that. Land use, we've already gone through. There's going to be a lot of changes because a lot of things were taken out of there. But we are also going to be spending a lot more time on the map, the future land use map, which is really honestly like the heart of this whole plan. And so that's something we're working on now. Did you have a question, Ernie?
No, I was acknowledging that in my mind that usually is with the heart of the plan.
Right. And last time around in 2013, they really didn't spend much time on it. So they didn't make many changes at all. Not this time we will. Let's see, housing, we've got, Shannon and Jeannie are working on that, and then we'll get together with them and refine it. For circulation, we are, redlining the chapter, revising it, and then we're going to have SDR help out and do a kind of an internal staff workshop, if you will, because there's a lot of people in public works with a lot of different specialties. And so if we can get them all in a room and be basically like, let's finish out this chapter, the draft, at the end of the meeting, and have policies and all that good stuff. So as you can see, it depends on the topic as to how we deal with each one. When we get to things like environment, outdoor recreation, we need to have a sit down with the Forest Service, and go through the draft with them. We need to sit down also with our sustainability department on that one. Let's see, economic and tourism, you guys are working on that. Community chapter, that one we are moving city parks and rec into it. And we have a new parks manager, so I'll be meeting with him. That might be another one of those chapters that we have you all help draft that. I will say that the community chapter right now has a lot of stuff in it that city actually doesn't have jurisdiction over. So I think we're going to try to be more strategic in this particular chapter, because of all the chapters, when we went through our accomplishments list, not a lot was done on the community section, and it's because some of those things the city doesn't have jurisdiction over. So I think we want to revisit that. And then
Cynthia, Mike has can we hold for 1 second? Mike has a comment. I want to, he doesn't forget, because that's what would happen to me.
No, the environment section, again, I'm kind of harping on groundwater, but is there a plan for a community meeting to talk about water resources at all as part of this planning process? Because we've had about 50 on housing. And a flip side of that is one of the biggest resources we have to manage as a city. And I feel like it's going to get short shrift. So I don't know what the plan is for that. So I'm kind of curious.
So I had to grab this thing because there's a joint water resource program project team that I believe is being led by Arizona Water Company.
Okay, good.
I'm not the rep, but Steve Mertis is the city's rep on this. We actually have at least two city staffers. So I need to find out where they're at on all of that. So that's.
I think it would be important to have a community meeting on this because it's often in the rhetoric in the conjunction of sustainability and tourism, and a lot of misinformation gets thrown around, and a lot of lack of information gets thrown around, I guess is one way to put it. And I want community input. I have ideas, but I don't want to be the one guy of 11 people in this town that goes, oh, we're going to do this. This is a big enough topic, I think, to warrant a community meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Probably partner with that group on.
Yeah,
that.
we would have to, because it's a lot of agencies and a lot of technical stuff that would be great to have perhaps a guest speaker come in of some sort that can kind of give people a sense of what's going on and then where we would like to go.
You know what I hear? I hear Mike volunteering to help put that.
Yeah, I know, I'm happy to.
Right.
This is the stuff that,
Anyone else do that?
it's one of the reasons I joined. So.
Anybody else want to be on that subgroup with Mike?
I'm interested when I get back.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll have further conversations
Maybe,
with
maybe another
Cynthia.
call with Mike.
Yeah, that's fine.
I wanted to add to that. I've been concerned that all we have a subgroup for is tourism and housing. And I thought we were going to have subgroups on all of these topics. Community would be an excellent one. I don't know about circulation, but I mean, I'm just thought that we would have more. So is it just a matter of if one of us steps up and offers to do it, or I'm a little confused on how that works.
I think part of it was that we knew that there was more writing associated with tourism and housing. And reminder that this is an update, right? There are parts that are going to need a bunch of help and parts that aren't. But because we haven't physically seen the existing chapters and the modifications that have been made to those, I don't think that we're certainly not opposed to a focused group of people looking at them. So I think, Cynthia, this is kind of for you. As soon as those chapters are ready, let's vet them with the group and get a couple people working on them, you know? So maybe we can bring that into our next work session, Cynthia. I mean, I'm hearing Linda on behalf of the group volunteering for more already. So let's those other leaders and see what we can't do to get some
And
focused
there are
attention on
people in
those,
the
if that's okay with
community
you.
who have great ideas. You know, like Mike was saying, I mean,
Yeah.
there's just some people who've been thinking about this and they have the background and they're really passionate about it that we could
Right.
learn a lot from. Okay, all right, good.
Well, and the other thing I'm remiss in saying is that we've been talking also a lot about how do we now, like the example that comes to my mind for me now is our review of the environment earlier today. I had just like Mike has his hydrology hat on, I had my wildlife biologist hat on, and was like, we need to vet these back through the experts, the partners, right? And so for efficiency's sake, we've, I think, decided at this point not to convene a big partner meeting, but instead go out to those groups, right? So it's kind of a shift. The work groups were definitely needed for housing, but like we are going to set aside a meeting with the Forest Service and probably Game and Fish for the environment part. Now we're talking about, you know, hydrology, whether I can't imagine that being a come all kind of conversation, frankly. It seems like a slightly specialized group like we were talking about before. So we'll get that in writing and put some thinking into that as we close in on these final chapters.
That sounds good.
Safe, Cynthia? That comment on what we reflected? Is that a bye? Is that a bye, Mike? Bye, Mike. Thanks so much for
there
coming.
there wasn't a buy. It was
There's
sorry.
a question.
Oh, golly.
No, I really think this is an opportunity. Again, I'm just going to plug for the hydrology because it is a massive thing going forward, and we don't want to have this town end up like a community in outlying Phoenix where they're busing water in from some other place. And I do think it warrants a community meeting rather than a specialized group, just so that the community can contribute. You know, that they need to be educated first and then give their contributions. Otherwise it's a specialized group, and you know, I can write the chapters, you know, next week, you know, for this. So.
Okay.
Just a plug.
We'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Thanks.
All right. All right, good meeting.
Anything else, Cynthia? We're 3 after the hour, so I just want to make sure that we're trying to keep people on their, I'm sure, other busy schedules.
Yeah, no, I think we're good to go.
Okay, so I think most of the follow-up is going to be happening kind of individually. We can go ahead. Wow, I saw that flash of lightning, Ernie. So you guys are getting it. We're right on it's not quite here yet.
Oh boy, yeah,
but we'll follow up with sending you guys the notes, sending you guys the vision chapter for your comments, and then keep the ball rolling on those kinds of things.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you all so much. Make sure to reach out to Linda and Mary if you can volunteer.
Could I just throw in one last comment on the fact that I really appreciate it. I think this may have been the most productive meeting that I've participated in. And the reason is that we started with good writing to start with, and we didn't spend our time trying to write sentences and wordsmith every single sentence that was in a document. So I'm looking forward to continuing this type of thing where you give us something that is pretty darn close and we just make conceptual comments is what I'm going to limit myself to. And how you phrase them and what exact word you use is not as important to me. But I want to make sure the concepts are right. And I think we really got there today. So I thank everybody.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yep. Thank you all as well for your constructive feedback on those and keeping everything moving. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys
Great
soon.
movie, great meeting. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Bye-bye.